My name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network, Women of Inspiration Awards. And this is the Women of Inspiration podcast, where we speak with women who lead, inspire, and motivate. Today, I have a really special guest on the podcast. I'm with Laura Bollier, and she is the CEO of Venus. And Laura, it is such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Before we jump into the interview, I do want to share just a little bit about her background. It's super impressive. She is a visionary leader, driving Venus into this new era as its first, and let me repeat that again, first female CEO. The company, you're going to have to jump in and remind me of the date, but it was founded, I believe, in 1974,
82.
Jacksonville, Florida. Did I nail that one?
1982.
What was the date?
1982.
1982, but
Yes.
it was founded by a man, and it's a
Yes.
swimwear line where it first started from. So as the first female CEO, which is super awesome, which you assume that position 2021, you bring to it with a depth of a 25-year career in the retail industry. You have a wealth of experience in your role spearheading companies, modernizations, and you really understand women. And I'm excited to dive into that about what you're doing with Venus and some of the initiatives that you're leading there. Now, Laura, we talked about this in the green room, but you've got a pretty impressive track record. You spent a decade with Spanx, serving as the VP of Global Merchandising. You were there for about 10 years, playing a pivotal role in developing the merchandising strategies to grow sales, leading to the billion-dollar valuation of the brand that we all know was acquired by Blackstone Group. So, Laura, I want to dig in. I want to start like right at the very beginning. We see you as CEO of this major brand, but do you remember we were having this conversation about you being a mom of girls? Do you remember when you were 12, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah. Right. What did I want to be? When I think back to being 12 years old, I think I actually wanted to be a teacher. I think I really enjoyed teaching others. So, yeah, that was not the path I ended up choosing, but I definitely, if I think back to being 12, I think I wanted to be a teacher back then.
So in your role, I mean, I ask this of every woman, that career path. I mean, they look at your successes now as a CEO leading and, just in a role as CEO, we know that stat. It is very few female CEOs exist. I believe it might be a little better now, but it's like 6%. It's You're one of the 6% of the females driving change in the industry for all women. So what was that career path like for you?
So it's funny. I will tell you that when I share this story, a lot of people laugh because I actually went to school for finance. I was a finance major and I thought that I was going to be a stockbroker and moved to New York City. So that was my vision. I majored in finance, and then the show Friends was pretty popular at the time when I was in college. And Rachel Green, Jennifer Aniston's character, was a buyer. She worked at Bloomingdale's, she worked at Ralph Lauren. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. I think I want to be a buyer. So I went to the career fair and I just started applying, and I ended up getting an opportunity to be an assistant buyer at Macy's, which was located in South Beach at the time. For those of you that go back with me, it was called Burdines. So I relocated to South Beach, and I spent a couple of years there, and I still had that dream of moving to New York City. So I did get there, but it wasn't the finance path. It was actually the fashion path. So I got to New York City crazy in June of 2001. So just several months before 9/11 happened, I relocated to New York City, super excited. And that was obviously a very, very challenging time. But I went there and I actually was like, I'm going to diversify my background. I always knew that I wanted to lead a company one day. I wasn't sure how I was going to get there, but it was always something. And I do believe heavily in manifestation. So I spoke a lot about I want to lead a company one day. Like, I kept putting it out there in the universe. And I'm like, in order to get there, I feel like I need a diversified background. So I started in the buying office, and I worked for, it was Macy's Federated at the time before the consolidation. So I ended up taking a job with Lord and Taylor, which was part of May Company, because I felt like, okay, I can learn a different skill set of how they drive the business. And then really throughout my career, after I made that first move, all of the opportunities I ended up taking were, I was recruited by them. So I ended up getting recruited, and it was a role to now try the wholesale side of the business. And it was with Nautica Men's Sportswear, and it was in planning. So I was like, great, I've always had this analytical side. I was a finance major. Let me go try that side of the business. Let me learn wholesale, and then let me use the analytical side. So I spent about 5 years running their merchandise planning team. And then I was like, I really, really miss the product side. The product side is just, there, I have so much passion for product. So I wanted to get back into that side. And after being at VF was an amazing company to be a part of, I got recruited from Coach Handbags. So I went over there for about a year. I felt like it would be another area of great learning opportunity. And, you know, I left on really good terms with VF. And so they came knocking again. And they were like, come back and run, because I was now doing handbags at Coach. They're like, come back and run our merchandising team for Kipling. And that was really exciting because the corporate offices were based out of Belgium. The headquarters were in Belgium. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going to go back, and now this is e-com, this is wholesale. We had some stores, and I also get this international experience. So throughout my career, with every opportunity I was recruited for, I just kept thinking about, how can I continue to grow? How can I continue to learn more? And then from there, we ended up relocating to Atlanta, and VF was incredible. They deemed that some of their talent, they at the time they had deemed people that they considered top talent, and they were so nice in the fact that I was able to be remote. This was back in 2010 when remote work wasn't really a big thing. So they allowed me to relocate to Atlanta as the head of merchandising and keep my job remotely, and I traveled back and forth. And at the time I had a 9-month-old. Had my first baby in New York City, and we relocated to Atlanta. And now not only am I traveling to New York, I'm also traveling to Belgium with this like baby at home. So I was kind of like, I don't see how this could work long term, especially knowing I wanted to have another child. So with that, I was very transparent, and we had very open conversations, and I looked for an opportunity in Atlanta, and then got to join Spanx, which was such an incredible time. I joined them in 2011. I spent, as you said, 10 years of my career with them in some of the most amazing times of launching brands, launching product categories. It was a really exciting time to be a part of Spanx. And then from there, after 10 years of being at Spanx, which I didn't think I'd ever leave, I really, really loved working at Spanx, I started getting these recruiting calls again. And they were for, now at this point, as you noted, I was the VP of merchandising, and they were C-level roles. And I just thought, I'd be silly not to listen. I'd be silly not to take these calls. And when they were CEO positions, I was, you're like, can I do that? And I was like, I'm going to put myself out there, and I am going to be who I am. And I'm not going to try to show up and be anything more. I'm going to show them who I am and what they're going to get. And if it doesn't work out, it was a great learning experience. That's all. And it did. It did. I kept going further and further in the interview. And then I had to fly down to Germany, or fly over to Germany for the final stage of the interview process in 2021. That was in July. And I ended up getting the opportunity as the first female CEO at Venus. And I'm super excited.
Congratulations. Yay. Like, if I had fireworks to set off here, they'd be going off, girl.
Thank you. And they brought me on really to modernize the brand and to modernize the product. And so I honestly, I'm so proud of this journey we've been on. And I'm sure you understand it all starts with the people, right? Like, you can't do it by yourself. You need to surround yourself with the smartest people, the experts in those categories, because as a CEO, you're not an expert in every category. That's just the reality. But you've got to surround yourself with the right people. So actually brought on someone, a woman named Tasha Hayes, who's my EVP of product. And we worked together at one point at Spanx, and she had left Spanx to go on to do other great things after I was still there. But she joined me here and she's done some really incredible, she holds patents in her name, like she's so talented. And I just feel very blessed with all of the talent that we have here at Venus. They really inspire me every day.
What a great career path. And, I want to talk about having that intention. You talk about manifesting, and, there's no such thing as luck.
Yeah.
Like people look at, like, how did she happen to be in this role? And, I think the more that we talk about the hard work, the
Yeah.
strategy, the pivots, the sacrifices, those hard conversations that we have, it takes all of those things to get you to the point where you have those opportunities. But here's what I love about the other part of your conversation was the opportunities came to you, Laura,
Yes.
and you took them. So I guess my next question is, there's so many women in that role or that position right now, and there's this, do I have what it takes? And so, what can you tell those women when those roles are coming to them about taking those opportunities, even though they might not feel totally prepared?
You have to believe in yourself. It's all about mindset. I mean, everybody has self-doubt, right? Like I even continue to struggle with that at times, right? Like, am I worthy? But you've got to believe in yourself and you have to believe in what you can achieve. And you have to ask yourself, I always ask myself when I start to go down a path of like, no, but what if it can? But what if it can? And you've got to just get your mindset to really believe and to dream of what that can really be for you. And it will come. I really believe, as you said, like the manifestation, there's so many stories I can share of how I believe like that really works. It really, really does.
Oh, girl, we could have a whole episode just on that, you and me. I guarantee it. And maybe we should. But I want to talk about, so you have this massive career path, which is we've only just uncovered just the tip of the iceberg, by the way, because we know that there's years and years and years of pivots, decisions, and support. We're going to talk about your support her, your champion at home, your husband, and his role that he played as well. But what, as the first CEO of Venus, which is a massive brand, I'm going to get you to talk a little bit more about that. But what are the unique perspectives that you bring to this role? And how's your leadership shaped kind of your role as CEO?
I would say, when you think about Venus and you think about it being launched back in the 80s and it had this, it's a heritage brand and it had a catalog business, right? It was founded on being a catalog business. So coming into this role, it was really not only about modernizing the brand from a positioning perspective and the product, it was modernizing the brand from being this traditional catalog company into transforming as the world is changing so fast around us with social media and e-commerce and AI. Like there's so much and you have to stay relevant. You have to innovate. So that's been a big piece over these last 3 years is what do we need to do to really take that step forward? And one of our most recent strategies was we replatformed. We actually replatformed to Shopify, which was a really big deal for this team internally.
Wow.
And I couldn't be more proud of what they were able to accomplish in the time frame that they did. I gave them a very, very shortened timeline to do a very, very big project. And they were like, no way. But I love being able to push people to just think differently. Like, okay, why can't we do that? And what would it look like if we could? And we did it. We did our launch in, I think we started in January and we went live August 6th. So it was a big, big move forward for this brand. And I'm super excited about it because it's going to continue to just open us up to be more agile and be a little bit scrappier and be fast. Like we've just, the world is changing so quickly and we need to be on that journey with it.
Beautiful. And you know what I love about that is what we don't even realize at that time is those stretch projects or assignments actually, as tough as they really are, what they do is they build confidence.
Yes, absolutely.
So
And I, the
I'm
team,
sure you're very strategic about that.
yes, yes, it was, I knew they could do it.
Mm,
I knew they could, and I supported them and I celebrated them once we got there because it was incredible. You know, I did lunches with them just to hear from all of them and knowing the hesitancy and the concerns going into it, and then having lunch, like, you know, probably 3/4 of the way through the project and seeing the excitement around what they were already accomplishing and what it's going to do for the future. So yeah, it was a great confidence builder for the team.
beautiful. So I was going to wait till a little bit later in the interview, but Women of Inspiration Awards, we celebrate the achievements of women who lead, inspire, motivate. It's one of our strongest pillars is really putting women into the spotlight. So, Laura, why is it so important to celebrate the achievements of women?
Because it lets you understand the opportunities that are out there. It encourages other women to see they can do it. And then future generations, I think about my girls, right? Like the opportunities for women, as you said, there's not a huge amount of women CEOs, but there can be. There are opportunities out there. And so it's so important to make sure we are highlighting what women are doing and how they're changing this world so other people can get that confidence and do the same.
Beautiful. And I'm going to go back to, it's kind of a leader in your role and position. You've got a role model position, not only for the company, not only for your own girls, but the women that are watching in silence that actually don't raise their hand or they're just fangirling from the sidelines and cheering you on. So, what key lessons have you learned in your, that you've learned in your career that you could apply to your role in Venus that some of these leaders can learn from?
Relatability. I think I've heard a lot about that, of being able to relate to the team members. I have no problem rolling up my sleeves and getting in there. I am so curious and I want to continue to learn. And one of the things I say, and I know that this is said, I'm sure many times, is if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room
Mm,
because we are always, always learning. And I do think no matter what level someone is in this organization, knowing them by name and understanding what their asset is to this organization.
beautiful. And I want to also talk about, like, it all comes back to the mission. And, the mission, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, empowering every woman to embrace their inner goddess. Who does, whatever occasion, who does not want to be an inner goddess? Who doesn't want to be a goddess? And so when we take that mission, how have you spearheaded some initiatives that sort of help empower that inner goddess?
And so one of the initiatives that we just launched recently too was Petites. So I'm super, super proud of that launch because I'm a petite woman myself. So this was a passion project for me of, as a petite woman, I can't wear everything. You cannot wear all the trends that are happening in fashion because, when flare jeans are a big deal, if you go get them altered, they're no longer flares. So you just always can't participate. So for me, it was like, how do you give that confidence? And Venus has always been about giving women confidence
Mhm.
and letting them express their self. And so we hear that as we speak to all of our customers, just the uniqueness that Venus brings to them. And so I would say the Petites launch was being able to bring confidence to petite women and giving them now a wardrobe that they don't have to spend tons of money on alterations and they could still be part of what trends are happening.
Beautiful. And you know what? I know that there's the size, everybody's size matters. And
Yep.
I mean, swimwear is the hardest one for sure, but I love how the brand has evolved to, you know, not just a swimwear line. I mean, that's where it really started. And if I'm correct, the originators of the separate suits, which is super important. I mean, I've got more of a, like, larger top and, like that whole thing broke the mold for so many women because we're all sizes. So how exciting is it to really be a part of something that is forever evolving and really embracing the true beauty of women?
Yes. I mean, the story of how we found that niche in the market, as you said, it was a man founder. We were founded by Daryl Scott, who was a man, and he was a bodybuilder. And he felt like there wasn't enough suits for competition. So he wanted to create men's suits and women's suits. And as he did that, he saw that the women's suits were outselling the men's suits. And he said, this doesn't line up with the men's competition to the women's. So they started calling the customers and they're like, how are you using this? And they're like, it's my swimwear. I can now buy, just like you said, I can now buy a large top and a medium bottom. And swimwear was always sold as sets. So we were the originators of swim separates.
Beautiful. And so is the founder still involved at some level, or is a support her? Like, how involved is he? Or I have no idea.
He's around. He's still here. I definitely, one of part of my onboarding when I was bringing in different people on the brand side, I would have them meet with him because I think he shares the heritage of what he built and how he built it. And, there's such great stories there. So I always was having everybody meet with him and just get to learn from him. And yeah, he's in our building from time to time. He works with our sister brands. So I definitely will, see him and talk to him when he's around.
Beautiful. Well, we probably one of my biggest other passions is to invite men to the conversation that are champions for women. And so, a man that has built a brand all about women would fall in the support her category, where you're really a champion for women. And hiring a female CEO as the best for the role, relatability wise. I mean, you bring a depth of other experiences and wisdom to the role, but it's so important that that example also exists. And having him involved like that is really important, I think, for as a role model for other men.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the lessons that you've learned because I think you have been through so many levels of kind of building your career. What are some of the biggest lessons that you can share with our listeners in your leadership this far?
Oh gosh, there's several, right? I would start with one of the things I share a lot and I feel very strongly is as women, we should empower other women, not fight for power. And
Mhm.
that was a lesson that I have learned throughout my career that there are a lot of people that look to fight for power. And there's more than one seat at the table. So that is definitely something that I feel very strong about in encouraging each other, lifting each other up, and really supporting each other. Um, what else? I think one of the things I always like as well is not letting the past burden your future. Like
Mhm.
you really need to take those learnings and understand if there was mistakes made or what came out of that, but that can't stop you from where you need to go in the future.
So there's another thing that I'd love to chat about with you. And I think that that's, you said relatability part. And, these authentic conversations that we have on the Woman of Inspiration podcast, where we speak to like women in positions of power, are, everybody talks about, am I good enough? Am I doing a good job? Even when I was at the Hello Sunshine event, Reese did like a selfie, and I was front row and couldn't miss me in my pink argent jacket, but the caption was, how did I do? And you know
Yeah.
what, every single interview that I've done, we always end, the camera's off, we stop recording, and everybody says, how did I do? And I'm like, you did amazing. Didn't you hear it? Like, you did incredible. So as a leader leading a company and a team of women, how do you set the bar or role model, kind of that confidence? And have you experienced imposter syndrome yourself?
Yeah, I would say that is definitely a great question, right? The whole imposter syndrome. There's always self-doubt. Am I good enough? Am I worthy? And I really do believe you have to believe in yourself. You do. It's a mindset because as we talk about support her, right? My husband, sometimes I feel like he believes in me more than I believe in myself, right? He's such a huge supporter of mine. And you've got to drown out the negativity. There will always be negativity. And there's one thing that I've learned is you cannot please everyone. In
Mhm.
a role like this, you will not be able to please every person as much as you want to, right? Like I love people. I believe success is based on the people you surround yourself with, right? Like you can't do it on your own. So I do believe that you have to make sure you continue to drown that out, stay focused on what you're trying to achieve, and know that not everybody has the visibility you do into the strategies you're putting in place and the goals you're trying to overcome. So to some, it may be like, why would you ever do that? Right? Like, but and you can't always share all those little details, which stinks, right? I do believe in transparency and I do share a lot internally, but sometimes I think people they don't understand sometimes the big picture of what we're trying to accomplish. So it's hard at times. It's lonely at the top, right? It's lonely sometimes.
That is so authentic. I know we had a little bit of a conversation in the green room about some of the initiatives that you're doing, and like you'd love to be able to share in the entirety. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that transparency because I think that's really important too. And I thank you for being so transparent. And I think that that is a quality that is really really important in leaders leading companies, and wanting to make sure that everybody feels included is that transparency. So tell me a little bit about some of those initiatives that you have in the wings.
So one of the things, I really believe in the balance of just hearing from our internal employees and understanding what will motivate them, right? Like what can we do to create the balance or the motivation for them? So probably, I guess we started this back in 2022 was testing a 4-day work week. And we said, you know what, we're going to test, we're going to learn, and we'll pivot when we need to. So we've been doing a 4-day work week since I think it went into full effect in the year of 2023. And we've been doing it through the year of 2024. And as you said, like in full transparency, I want to test all of these things, but whatever the business tends to dictate, we're going to have to evolve when the time is right to evolve. So that's definitely an initiative that I think the team has really, really enjoyed. Another thing we started testing it in September, and I was like, yep, keep going. People wanted to bring their dogs to the office. So I was like, okay, great. So every Thursday, it's dogs in office day. So of course there's forms to fill out and all of that. But yeah, so there's just, how do we keep that balance with what the team wants and what will make them more motivated to show up and be their best?
Beautiful. Well, I love that. It sounds like you've got a lot of interesting products, initiatives in happening and on the go, and I can tell that the energy that you're bringing into the company as a leader is certainly being embraced. I also want to talk a little bit about your sustainability. That's, about that Venus Cares piece. I didn't know about the whole recycled piece of, the sustainability. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that with the listeners because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, what I thought was most interesting when I actually joined Venus is that sustainability has been heritage. We are owned by the Auto Group out of Germany, and sustainability is not a new initiative. This has
Mm.
been something that they always have prided themselves on. So coming in 2021, when it kind of was a buzzword, it felt so refreshing to be joining an organization that actually like this is part of their DNA. So I would say that, from us internally, like, of course, from the fabrication side, do we use recycled fibers? Yes. But we have solar panels on our building. We have a charge charging station for electric cars. So our paper, like our packaging, the initiatives go across the entire organization. It's not just focused on just product. So I'm proud to say that even coming into this organization, it was something that was in the DNA of who this company was. And it's not just a buzz and it's not going away.
Cool. I'd love to hear that. And, so I know that we have limited time here today. I could go on and on and on. We will have to have that other conversation. But, what is some of your future plans for Venus? How do you continue to empower women through all of the brands offering and through your leadership that you bring to the company?
So some of the exciting things we have happening is launching wholesale. So that is a new initiative for us. We actually are testing in the cruise and resort space. So we started that test in September. So far, early reads have been very positive. We are also going to be launching on marketplaces, which will be a new initiative for us. And then we have an exciting collaboration that I can't share just yet that will be launching next May.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's a very exciting collaboration, and I wish I could share who it is at this point, but we have not released that yet. So
Okay. Well, I'm going to be looking you up when that happens and we'll be celebrating. So it wouldn't be a Women of Inspiration podcast, Laura, without asking a couple more questions about, we've touched on celebrating why it's so important to recognize and celebrate women, but, who are some of the role models that you've looked up to on your career path and journey that have inspired you?
obviously Sarah Blakely, just being at Spanx and getting to work so closely with her, she, we had sweatshirts that talked about failure is not trying, right? Like it was very much, she's very much an inspiration and a role model. And then honestly, I would say it's the people I surround myself with, whether it's in my personal life or it's here at work. I have so many talented people, from my CFO to my head of creative to all the different people throughout our leadership team in this company. I think I'm honestly surrounded by, like, I'm so inspired by them and what they bring to the table every day.
Well, I can tell you they probably look at you as though you're a woman of inspiration, Laura. And so, my final wrap up question for us today would be, what is your definition of a woman of inspiration?
I would say it's someone that believes in themselves. You have to believe in yourself, and someone that can overcome any challenge that is thrown their way and
Mm,
just keep going.
beautiful. The power of belief. It is really, really strong. Um, and if I'm going to share a little bit of glimpse of my journey in the green room, and then you'll understand why that is so important to me as well. But I want to thank you so much for this great conversation today. I'm super excited. I know we'll be in New York City very, very soon, November the 7th. So I'll be tapping you on the shoulder about that. And any last words that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Just thank you so much for having me. You are an inspiration yourself, and I feel very honored to have been chosen to be on this with you. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the green room dance, Alicia Keys. Like, what a great way. Like, I think we matched our energies right out of the gate. So it's been an absolute joy to meet you. And I look forward to the journey ahead.
Same. Thank you.
Okay, that was just a quick break because now we're going to behind the scenes. And I've been wanting to do this, Laura, for such a long time. And you and I had such a great connection in the very beginning. We danced it out to Alicia Keys. Um, I felt like I knew you from, like, for years, even though we had just met. And there's synchronicities, and when you're totally in line with what you're doing and you're with other people that are totally in line, like flow happens. And so I want to talk a little bit about those manifestations and the flow because I don't think we talk enough about it. And we did go offline, and I said, hey, are you game to talk about this a little bit more? Because I think this is what the world is ready for. And I think that most people, in my world, anyways, we're very connected spiritually. We talk about manifesting, we talk about the importance of intuition. So, can we dive into that just a little bit here? and there's some things that you were going to share. I'm like, no, just save it. Just save
Yes.
it.
Yes.
So if you can just share a couple of those things that you said, Monica, I wish I shared before. I just love you to be able to share them with our audience.
Absolutely. As we talk about this journey and just the journey I've been in as I've, started even interviewing for this role, I do believe as you put things out there, they come, right? So this opportunity coming my way, as I shared with you, I didn't know if I was going to take it. I didn't know if I'd get it, right? Like I didn't know if it aligned with where I wanted to go or what, but I was like, I'd be silly not to listen. And it went on for many months. And, as you talk about support her, my father was one of my biggest supporters. And actually, he was planning to relocate with me to Jacksonville. And unfortunately, I lost him to COVID. I lost him September 12th of 21, and I started this job October 1st. So there's so many things that I feel like played in the way they happened to get me through just the times. Losing my father was horrific. And then I jumped into this job 2 weeks later. But as I even look back, like through that time and just some of the things that happened, I went on this girls' trip to Arizona. And I had never had my cards read or anything like that. And my friends were like, let's go do a sound bath. And it was kind of crazy. There was four of us and we found this woman and we drove to her house and we were all like, where are we going? We need to let people know where we are in case we don't come out, right? But it couldn't have been more lovely. And so we get there, and before the sound bath, she was like, I have 4 decks of cards since there's 4 of you, and I want you all to pick your cards. And so we pick the cards, and my friend goes first, and then she comes to me, and I can't remember if it was courage. The card I picked, I have a picture. I'll send it to you when we're done because I took a picture of it. And she looked at me and she said, you're going through change. And I was like, how so? And she's like, it's either with a relationship or a job. And my ears perked. And because I had shared, like, I started getting all these calls and I was entertaining them. And this is now May. So I actually had gotten calls starting back in February. And that's when I started talking to Venus, was in February. So now we're in May and I'm on this trip and I'm not sure which way it's going to go. And I had so much stress about, I have these 2 little girls at the time. One was going into 4th grade and one was going into 7th grade. And I'm like, it's May. What's going to happen? If I get the job, will I take it? I have to relocate to Jacksonville. I don't want to pull my kids out in the middle of a school year. Like, I don't know if it's going to work out. And I was just creating all this stress of like unnecessary. So I listened to this woman and she starts nailing me. I mean, the things she was saying about me, like it literally brought tears to my eyes because she was talking about, you need to wear pearls. There's some masculinity coming out. And like, like just like it was crazy of like, because I've got this drive, like I have this drive. And she shares with me, it's not going to look the way you think. And I was like, okay. She's like, the job's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to work out exactly how you wanted it to. It's not going to be in your timing. And I was like, tell me more. And she did something and she's like, I don't know, the moon or the sun or whatever, but she was like, when all those align, you're not going to know anything until August. That was in May. The next day, and I get chills sharing this, and my friends could validate this. I get a
I
call from
got goosebumps.
I get a call from the recruiter, and she literally starts sharing with me about like, so we're talking about like this management board style, and they're looking at you as the CEO. And so like the role was kind of like changing, but not like it was still the CEO role, but they were like, we do a lot of boards in Germany. So I'm like, I'm game. Let's keep going. Let's keep talking. And then I kid you not, I got the offer at the end of August. And the offer came as my father got diagnosed with COVID. And it was this just crazy timing of how I truly believe the way the universe works to get us through what we need to get through. And, he was going to move here with me. And in his hospital bed, we would have conversations of looking at homes together, of what our life could look like. But I know that he's up there watching over me, and I just continue to go on, make him very, very proud. But between him and my husband, they've just been huge support for me, huge support. And it's amazing what comes your way when you're open and you're receptive to receiving. It's amazing. And Then I relocate to Jacksonville and start over. I have no family here.
Mm.
And I'm like, how am I doing this? My husband owns a company in Atlanta, and there's just lots of dynamics and logistics to figure out, of like him being in Atlanta, me being here, having these two girls. And I meet such an incredible person here. Like I found a person that understood me, and we were both women that inspire each other. She's an entrepreneur here in Jacksonville, and it was like family you didn't know you needed at the time, right? Like I didn't know that I could get through this time with like not having family, feeling alone, losing my father, and all those things. And then you've got this huge support network of another woman that's like, I got you. I got you. And one of the other manifestations that I wanted to share with you, that I truly like think is so incredible, is I always admired, Sarah and what she did at Spanx, and the people, she was at Necker Island with Richard Branson and Strive and all these things. And in my own mind, as I was getting this opportunity for this role, because I was like, I love being at Spanx. I don't know if I'll leave. And then I was like, I need to do me, and I need to take this chance, and I need to start being at the table because of me, not because of anyone else, because I am worthy, right? Like it goes back to that, I am worthy. And I always like manifested. I'm like, I'm going to meet Richard Branson. And fast forward, I was invited to a mastermind event from the woman that I had met, who's an entrepreneur here in Jacksonville. And I was at Necker Island at the end of April and got to
I'm
meet Richard
manifesting that too, by the way. I was in the BVI's. I'm like, do you mind if we just stop in and say hi to Richard? He doesn't know me yet. Yet.
yet, yet. Yeah.
That is incredible. Oh my God. I bet it was like mind blowing.
It was mind blowing. It really was mind blowing, of just thinking about, I'm going to step into this role. I'm going to be seen for who I am, and I am going to have that seat at the table for what I bring to the table. And then from all the great things that are happening at Venus, and what I've been able to do and contribute, to be recognized and be asked to join a mastermind at that level, it was truly an incredible opportunity. And I truly believe, from manifesting, that opportunity came my way.
I have no doubt. I actually have no doubt because there are so many synchronicities. And I think it's about timing as well. Like the universe, even our conversation today, I have to say, I had a couple spots. I am flat out, but this opportunity came up to have a conversation with you. And I'm like, let's do it. I had this really strong feeling that we needed to have a conversation today. And I was right. I was so right. But you have to listen to the intuition, and you have to listen to those little whispers. And I know that I shared a couple whispers with you in the green room. And honestly, I call her my communications expert, not my communications expert, my communications advisor is what I call her. And so I've gone for years, and I've had my cards read. I do it annually. I go when I need a little bit confirmation of, am I on the right path? And she's part of my advisory team. And, so I get my cards read. And to be honest with you, when my son was born, I got his palm read as well. And I didn't, and she nailed it. I didn't want to see it, but she nailed what my journey was going to be like. And she goes, I wish I didn't see what I saw. And she also said he's going to meet his true love, young. But anyways, we can talk so many more about that. But I'm very spiritually guided, and I do not dismiss the whispers. I should have got the whisper and the nudge before I got married. Um, but then I didn't. And, everything is what it is right now. And I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if that didn't happen either. So I truly do believe in, synchronicities and divine guidance and manifestation um, and meetings for the right time and the right reasons. So super awesome. Uh, Intuition, what can you share a little bit more for? And I think it's so refreshing. Thank you for being so open and honest about your father. I can tell, I was my eyes were weeping as well because
That
I
would
can tell how
that's great.
special of a man he was, and he would be so, like I felt so like he sees that. Like I even have a girl that I'm going to introduce you to who actually is able to communicate with people that cross over. So I am so going to introduce you to her as well. Her name is Michelle Mink, and she's phenomenal. I've talked to my grandmother.
I would love that. Oh, I would love
Yeah.
that.
So anyways, this is the stuff in behind the scenes that I usually have conversations like this with my guests. Once we press pause or we end and we're like, well, thank you for joining us. And then we press pause and then we go have this great conversation. So I'm just super excited that you said, Monica, let's dive in, let's do it, let's talk about some of those synchronicities and manifestation. I am all about that. And I'm not hiding it. Like I picked Universal Women's Network for a reason.
I love that.
You can't get big enough either. Any final, I mean, I could talk all day long, and I think that we will have to have a bigger conversation, but any more words of wisdom that you want to share with listeners about, just trusting your inner instinct, that instinct, that intuition that you have, like, it's different for everybody. What's it like for you?
It is. It's really trusting, and it comes out. Like we could go on for hours. So I'm
I
not gonna
know. I've got a couple hours.
there's so many stories. Like when I think about how things come to you at times when you're not expecting them, and you just have to be so open to receive. And you've got to listen. You just got to listen. And it's crazy when I think about other things that have happened that you're thinking about, and then you get this phone call and you're like, that wasn't coincidence. That wasn't coincidence. So yeah, trust your intuition. Listen, be open to receiving it. You are
Mm.
worthy. You are worthy.
You are worthy. And I think probably one of the biggest takeaways that I can share with you and confirm that is, as crazy as it sounds, that voice that says, get on that plane,
Yeah.
or that voice that says, do this. I always say that I operate on autopilot. So I download and it's just I'm almost like I'm here to carry out whatever the universe is telling me to do. As crazy as it sounds, or it's not always the easiest path, but I'm like, yes, I'm going to do that. And and really don't give a flying, whatever about how ridiculous it might seem, or if it all makes sense at the time. I think is probably my biggest share with everybody is that, trust the universe, trust and trust the people around you that are guiding and supporting you in the journey. So thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I love that you have a support her male champion in your world, because that's really, really big. We need more of those men that are open to leading by example, and actually we celebrate them as well through Women of Inspiration Awards. So that's something I'm really passionate about, and we have this international support her day even to
I
drive that
love
home
that.
with companies and industries. Yeah, I started, so it's year 4 this year coming up.
Cool.
Anyways, I look forward to meeting you in real life, celebrating your successes, and continuing the conversation with you. Pleasure to have this official interview and behind the scenes.
Yes, it's been incredible. Thank you so much. I feel so honored.
Thank you so much, Laura. And for those listening, we would love your comments. Like, I know I'm going to get flooded with comments about this one because we just, this unscripted piece at the very end, love to know what you think about that, because maybe we'll just have to do more of it. Anyways, thanks so much, Laura. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it widely. And actually, how can people find out more about you, Laura? Where do they go? What do you want them to do? LinkedIn?
Sure. Yeah. LinkedIn would be great. Absolutely. That's where you can find me.
And then, of course, the venuswebsite.com.
Yes. Yes. Venus.com. Definitely check us out. We have so many exciting things coming out. I'm really, really proud of where we're headed.
Super excited. Okay, we're going to cut this one for now, but thanks for tuning in to Women of Inspiration podcast. And we look forward to continuing the conversation. Thanks a lot, Laura. Thank you.